just hanging here with some of my friends, and I'm playing a little Bomberman Max 2 on the Game Boy Advance. Now, this is kind of a cool little game. It stars Bomberman and his buddy Max, and he's being sort of shrunk. He's been shrunk by the evil Mujo and the Higgy bandits. Now, the thing is that you play two different characters. Bomberman on the blue cartridge, Max on the red cartridge. You're trying to stop Mujo and, like, grow back to normal size, so you've got to go through all these different levels. You've got sort of garden levels, and there's like forest levels and all kinds of weird things like that. You've got all kinds of bad guys that you got to blow up. You're dropping bombs all over the place, sort of typical Bomberman style kind of gameplay. But they've sort of given you an isometric camera, like an over-the-top viewpoint on the thing, and all the characters look nice and cute and cuddly, you know, just like you like. Now, the big deal here on this thing is that you can link it up with another Game Boy Advance, and you can play multiplayer games with your buddies. There's 80 different levels on one cartridge. When you connect, you get an additional 20 levels of gameplay. You know, this is a lot of value for the money. It's called Bomberman Max 2 for the Game Boy Advance from Majesco, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's 2 cartridges. Go find some friends and pick this one up. Alright, we found the place in the park that is the closest we have seen so far to flying in space, because we're going to talk about a brand new expansion pack for Galactic Battlegrounds. It's called the Clone Campaign.
Yahoo! The Force guides my controls. Blasters charging.
Now, what did you think of this game?
I think that if someone spits on me, I'm going to be very upset.
They're going to get a duck in the face.
This game was built on the Age of Empires engine.
Age of Kings, actually. It was a sequel to Age of Empires, but roots in Age of Empires.
They didn't add anything new, really, to the engine. For example, the Clone Wars were all about thousands of people battling other thousands of things. I want to be able to pick like 1,000 different units of guys and send them battling against 1,000 other guys. But because of the limitations of the older engine, you can only send, you can only control up to like 20 guys.
Your orders, General. Your orders, General. Targeting enemy. Enemy is mine.
It doesn't do anything new or unique.
Well,
special.
It does, because you get to play with the Star Wars units.
Well, that's the only difference it has. It's Star Wars.
Agreed. Okay, but here's the reason why they went with Age of Kings in the first place. I mean, this is not a 3D game, so you can't zoom into the action. You can't zoom out and see the huge battlefield. But what you do get is a solid playing game, and it works great. And I think that's why LucasArts went with this engine.
Yeah, they went with a proven winner. It's the safe way to go. But, hey, I want to see something else.
I really enjoyed the fact that they are brand new vehicles and stuff. In the original Galactic Battlegrounds, you were able to play with vehicles and units from Episode 1, 4, 5, and 6. And this one introduces a lot of the cool things that we saw in what I think are the most spectacular Star Wars battles in the whole series of movies. Now you can play with those giant tanks with those huge sort of wheels along the sides. You get those giant sort of orb-shaped tanks. But the coolest part of this game has to be the Jedi Knights. The Jedi Knights are awesome. They get hit and their health regenerates quickly, but those lightsabers, they can stop anything. Really what we're talking about here are robots, troopers, and workers. And the workers...
And ducks.
And no, there's no ducks. No ducks in the game. So robots, workers, and... You got your duck again? I'm sorry, that was cruel, man. I shouldn't have thrown your duck. You're mining for stuff. You're building all kinds of new craft. There's air battles. There's turrets that you can build. You know, it's a very slick game.
Now, the voice acting in this game is phenomenal, like in all LucasArts games. And in fact, I'll go as far as saying that the voice acting in this game was far better than the actual movie Episode 2 itself, and I think you'd agree with me.
I would. No offense to the actors in the film. It just, well, actually, it is kind of offensive, and I don't think there's any way we can get around it.
The sound effects are really good, and the music. I mean, all of the Star Wars RTS games literally were just not good. And this one's good. So
what would you give it?
I would give it a 7.
I give it exactly the same score, 7 out of 10. On the positive side, the Age of Kings engine is proven and well refined. The sound effects and overall production values in the game are awesome. and we love using those little Jedis because they heal quick and they're badass.
On the negative side, compared to all the new 3D RTS games that are coming out, this one just doesn't have all the extras we'd expect. Hey, this is the Clone Wars. I would have liked to have chosen a lot more units to go battling with. And finally, the acting in this game was phenomenal. In fact, better than the movie, which isn't really a negative for the game, but more for the movie.
All right, well, while we're on the subject of Star Wars, let's talk about a brand new controller for the PlayStation 2. It's called the PX5000, and it looks like Darth Vader's controller.
It does, doesn't it?
It sure does. And I like to call this controller the Cheater's Controller.
The Cheater's Controller.
Yeah, because not only does it have the prerequisite turbo button, but it also has that ever-handy macro button on there, and it has a whole sort of LCD screen so that you can do all of these input code type things, so you can basically press one button and you've got a whole sort of combination of moves and button presses in one go.
That is cheating, isn't it?
It's really much cheating.
Now, what kind of gamer would do that?
Yeah, well, have you ever played against somebody in Street Fighter or Tekken where they've got macros and they just press one button and they're doing all these super flailing fire kicks?
The controller, it has this kind of weird thing on it where on the thumbsticks, you can turn a little control knob thing.
Right, the auto lock.
And it just makes the controllers go left to right.
That's my favorite part of this controller. So if you're playing a game like Gran Turismo 3, where you can use both thumbsticks, it makes it a little bit smoother.
I'm like a violent type of player, you know?
We like to say hyper.
Okay, and I felt that my fingers, when they'd slide off, I'd accidentally lock the analog stick in place.
Right.
So I couldn't move. That's a problem.
One of my big problems with this controller is that it has the turbo and macro right under the L2 and R2 buttons.
Right.
So how in the heck are you going to be playing a game where you need those buttons and you're not going to hit the other ones by mistake? Even though this thing's only $25 and it offers all of this sort of extended playability, skip it.
I'm not going to recommend this.
On the positive side, we think that the PX5000 kind of looks like Darth Vader's controller. We like the idea of the auto lock feature so you can play driving games with the two analog thumbsticks. And you know, having an LCD screen on a controller is kind of a nifty idea.
On the negative side, it kind of looks like Darth Vader's controller.
Yeah, you're right.
And it kind of has those locking joystick analog stick things. What are those for? And finally, it has an LCD screen, which I find completely unnecessary.
We're going to take a look at Aggressive Inline for the PlayStation 2, so don't go anywhere.